Guys, I want to welcome you to another episode of the Advisory Board, a podcast where we bring in experts from the franchising community to teach you how to do things really well so that your franchisees can be successful and you can grow a thriving franchise brand. And I've got a good friend with me today, Karen Wenning. Karen, say hi to everybody, please.
Hello, thanks Dave for having me.
Guys, Karen, if you don't know her, I'd be surprised, or you're pretty new to franchising because she's been in it for a long time. But we're going to talk today about something that she's just a true expert in. She's got a background in marketing. I mean, how many years have you been in franchising now? Is it 15, 16?
I've been at Suttle-Straus for 17 years and we've been
Okay,
working with franchisors that whole time.
that's crazy. Okay, so she's got way more time in the industry than I do. So we'll lean on her expertise today. But we're going to talk about about rethinking the unit franchise operator marketing success strategy. Like, what do they need to be successful at the unit level? What are you maybe not thinking about you should be? What are some things you got to know about maybe compliance or for brand marketing compliance? Like some of those things. Karen's a real expert there. But I want to tell you just a little bit about her and Suttle-Straus before we get rocking, just so you know why did I pick Karen for this topic. So not just because she's a friend of mine, but because Suttle-Straus is she's so first of all, she's the sorceress of business development there. She's been talking to brands for 17 years about this stuff. So if you can imagine the knowledge and the experience and the examples she can pull from, I think you're going to enjoy it. But Suttle-Straus has been in printing for 110 years, but they've become a lot more than that over the last several decades, where they've built automation systems, platforms that can help you automate, manage marketing strategies. So they one of the things that I love about what they do is they also have built-in brand compliance tool sets. So as a brand, you can set the parameters and the colors and the ads and designs and things like that, but then also give local operators then the flexibility to say, hey, I want to take this Facebook design and convert it into an Instagram post, or like they give you all those tools in the platform so they can help with a lot of those things. It's mission critical for your operators to feel like they've got some local control and yet brand compliance guidelines that they can't operate out of. Now, help me out, Karen. Tell us a little bit more about you. Tell us a little bit more about Suttle-Straus, and we'll jump right into that topic.
Absolutely. Very well said, Dave. Maybe you could do my pitches for me. Um, let's see. So Suttle-Straus, as far as the products that we offer as a result of the brand portal, we do direct mail in-house. We have 7 full-time graphic designers that can do overflow work for your brands. We have the ability to do promo and apparel. And all of that can be managed through the brand portal. So that's what I do at Suttle-Straus. If I sat next to you on a plane, I would never tell you that I work for a printer. I would tell you that I sell marketing software to franchisors. And that is what I do. And that is what I'm focused on. Our platform is, the roadmap is completely built out just for franchising.
That's awesome. Oh, and one more fun fact about Karen, she has twins. And don't you have like some elite athlete kids as well, Karen?
I don't know about that. We both have twins, so that's a shared interest, I guess, for Dave and I. My children are quite athletic. I will say that my younger son is currently out with USA lacrosse team, trying to make their team, and my older son plays football in college, and my daughter also plays lacrosse.
Yeah. That was a softball question because we could brag about your kids for a while, or mine, but that's awesome. So let's jump into the topic. So Karen, tell us a little bit about first and foremost, like we got to lay a foundation for this conversation. So let's talk about customer journey. Like one thing that you mentioned as we were chatting early on in this conversation before we started recording is just that you talk to brands a lot and they don't understand the consumer level customer journey, and because of that they're making fundamental mistakes in the way that they approach marketing strategy. So that means they're overspending, that means they're not reaching the target audience, that means they're not getting the door to swing as much as they should, or getting the revenue to come in like they should. And right now, with the economy kind of softening, and I had somebody on my team, Keith, he mentioned this the other day, with political campaign years, you'll see your cost per click skyrocket on a lot of digital right now because there are like $360 billion in the war chests across the aisle. That's all getting dumped into social and into Google and into everything. And you're going to be competing for mind share with that budget. So not even Authority Brands or Neighborly have that kind of budget for marketing. So anyway, talk to us about customer journey. And that way people can start getting a really good insight into how should they be thinking about consumer level marketing.
Yes. A lot of times I'll ask a franchisor or a franchisee that comes to us looking for, maybe some direct mail marketing about what their customer journey looks like. And many times they really can't tell me. They say people are going to our website. Right. Well, that's what we always want to point them to the website, no matter what the marketing channel is, right? We want them to end up on the website. But do you really know how many touches it takes and where they're getting the information from in order for that consumer to make a buying decision? A lot of times people really don't know that, and they don't understand. When I'm talking to a franchisee, you're going into a new market and you have no brand name awareness, for example, you're emerging franchise.
Yeah.
How many touches is it going to take to get a conversion? It could be 30, 40, 50, 60. Now, if your brand is a situational brand, like, there's a flood in my house and I need to have somebody come and take care of it, then it's going to be even more touches, right? Because they only need you in the event of an emergency.
Yeah.
So how do we stay top of mind? And how do we understand what those touches are? If the franchisor and the franchisee understand that, it makes things a lot easier, because we're understanding that this multi-channel approach is going to get those touches faster, and it's going to turn people into customers more quickly. But all of that takes money, right?
Yeah, it all takes money. But do you mind sharing, maybe elaborating a little bit more on like the types of touches? Because some people listening, they're like, yeah, we know touches, blah, blah, blah. But like, what are some of the ways that you're seeing brands creatively increase the number of touches they're getting across this journey, and doing it within a budget that's reasonable at a local level?
Absolutely. So a lot of touches will be, obviously digital. First, you're going to want to be in digital and social, but then you're joining, if you're a kid brand, maybe you're joining moms groups and maybe they're seeing you there. Maybe it's a local event. Maybe it's a direct mail piece. Maybe, it's something that's coming up with Google, right? When you do a search. So all of these things are really important, and some are more important than others when you're first opening, and you're going to add them on as you have the budget.
Yeah. And so let's talk more. So where do you see some of the biggest gaps in people understanding customer journey? Obviously touches is key. We got exposing them to the brand. Have you found that certain touches, when they start to advance through their awareness of your brand, start to have more impact on a consumer and them starting to feel favorable toward a brand?
Well, definitely. I mean, definitely any referrals from other consumers are going to be huge, right? Like, number one, if somebody refers them, they're going to go in.
Yeah.
Direct mail can be very persuasive because it is very credible. So people get a direct mail piece and they're like, oh, I need to save this, or I should put this here. And so it enjoys a longer shelf life in the home, for example, than, something that they might see on Instagram. They might see it and it's gone. If the direct mail piece comes after they've seen it on Instagram, or they got it in the informed delivery or all of these other places, then it might be something that they hang on to. So, items that have shelf life are important. Anything that's engaging, so something that they physically have to maybe open or move, or those have more staying power, if you will, and might sit on the kitchen counter for a few more days.
Yeah, I did a podcast years ago with one of the guys at like Mailbox Power, but he was talking about like 14 times longer staying power than like an email. An email is cheap and easy and it gets delivered, but somebody will look at that and they'll look at it once if you're lucky, right? 20% maybe or less will get seen, and if they look at it, they might look at it for 10 seconds or less, right? And then pitch it. Like, I'm busy. I don't know. I don't know who you are. Physical mail though, he's like, yeah, 14 days plus. I actually have like notes that have come to me or flyers that people have sent to me. I was like, that was clever. And some of them are sitting on my shelf of like awesome marketing crap that's like right here because I reference it sometimes. Or if it's like a card from somebody, it's like a handwritten thank you note, I put them on my desk. And so some of those have staying powers of 2 or 3 years, which I'm reminded of my relationship with that person every time. Like, oh, there's my card from Bob. Cool. So yeah, 100% agree. And there's something tactile about it that cuts through the clutter. Do you want to share a little bit insight about that?
Well, I mean, obviously, any kind of direct mail piece we want to have a QR code that's going to take that consumer right to the web page that you want them on your website, whether it's your main page or a sign up page or whatever that might be. Thankfully, COVID brought back QR codes. So we definitely want to do that, because at the end of the day, like I said before, we always want to drive to the website. And we always want then people looking for, okay, where are the reviews? What are the reviews? Because I'm probably not going to make a decision without seeing the reviews.
Yeah.
So, and again, that's another touch in the customer journey. So now we got the direct mail piece, and now we got them on your website, and now we have them looking at your reviews. So what are those things that you want to put on the direct mail piece to get people to do something like that? And many times it is, obviously, if it's a lifestyle brand, it's what that lifestyle looks like. If it's food, we want some really good food, but we always want a QR code on that. We always want a compelling offer, and you can tie that offer to specifically to your direct mail. Some brands will have like a different phone number that they're going to use on direct mail versus what they have on the website. And that's great because it does give some insights, but I caution on that a little bit, because if you have a different call number on your direct mail piece and a different call number on your website, remember the call to action on the direct mail piece is driving them to the website. So when they get to the direct mail site and they call the call number on the website, that's great. We wanted them to call. Yeah. And we sure want someone to pick up that phone on the other end, but that's a whole nother conversation.
It's a different discussion, yeah.
But don't think that the direct mail piece wasn't effective because they're calling the number on the site because of the direct, you know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. The customer journey is complicated, and it really is hard to tell. And as a marketer, I know that it's really hard to swallow. It's like, I want to measure everything. I want to know exactly what the ROI is. It really is hard to tell, which touch was a result of which marketing tactic.
Right. And I was talking to somebody about television ads and things in a previous podcast, and he said, I think the same thing is true of pretty much any campaign, because you can't control what the consumer is going to do with what you give them, right? They might scan the QR code, go to the landing page, close it down, look you up, go to Google and find your reviews, and then go back to your domain. And if you've got the right tracking, maybe you'll know that's the same person, right? As long as they accepted your cookies. But if not, like you might be operating blind, but if you see the general volume, you've got to know benchmarks, you got to know KPIs, you got to be measuring all the time. And then you've got to measure the delta between, hey, we launched campaign A, never launch campaign A, B, and C all at the same time, because you'll never know what's actually working, right? So you've got to be careful, unless you've got sophisticated A/B testing on the back end for digital, or for like different QR codes on different flyers, right? You can do it, but you got to be careful so you can measure the general change in consumer behavior based upon the marketing, or else you're going to be just throwing spaghetti at the wall and praying stuff sticking and not knowing what actually works. And that's not a great way to operate, especially as the economy's tightening and lead volumes are a little down across most industries.
100% agree with that. We do take a lot of looks at the Google Analytics, and those will be shared too, to just say, okay, look, during this campaign, we were running this. Here's what happened with your Google Analytics. This is what was happening the 30 days prior when we weren't running, right? Mm-hmm. So that it's helpful, but it's not 100%.
Yeah, no, it's not exact, but you can make a lot of money making good decisions based upon general marketing data that's changing, right? So I love the QR code, like blending digital physical. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, we put QR codes on the backs of our t-shirts. It's actually kind of smooth, but if somebody was like, oh, what's this? Click, they can, like, as they're walking down the hallway, go to a landing page. I think it's really smart to blend physical digital that way. And QR codes are such an easy way to do that now. Yeah, smart. So let's talk. So LTV. So one of the things a lot of marketers, they talk about LTV or lifetime value, but it seems like a lot of brands don't understand. Like they're like, no, I'm only looking at immediate ROI on the lead spend. Should, right? Our ROAS, you should be checking that out too. But sometimes, especially with recurring service brands, people get afraid to invest in marketing strategies because, like, I'm not going to make enough money off of this. Well, you're right. Month 1, you won't, but month 2 through 48, you will make plenty of money off of this. So can you talk about, like, what is lifetime value and how should people be thinking about it and measuring it so they can get effective ROI on their marketing spend?
Mm-hmm. And I ask this a lot because when people are wanting to do a campaign, well, what is the lifetime value of a customer? And I can't tell you how many times people are like, I don't know. and they just don't know. Well, if you don't know what the lifetime value is of your customer, how can you possibly calculate ROI on a campaign? So there's a couple ways that you can, look at lifetime value. Some companies really have the deep data, and they can go in and they can figure it out. Other companies will give me like a location by location lifetime value because they know what each location is. And some brands that I work with will just say, the average lifetime value of a client is X.
Mhm.
Because if we do any type of marketing and we bring somebody in for a one-time service, two things here. One, okay, what is that customer worth to you? Not what did it cost to bring them in the door? What is that customer worth to you now that they're there?
Mhm.
Two, what is the strategy to get them from a one-time user? So let's say, oh, there's a really good deal on a facial, and I go in because it's a new location and I'm going to get a facial for $150. Okay, I came in once. My lifetime value isn't 150.
Mhm.
Because what is the marketing strategy then to get them from this one-time user to, oh, Karen's going to buy a membership, and here's what we're going to do. These are the marketing tactics that we have in place. So when Karen leaves today and she doesn't sign up for a membership, I'm going to get her back in 30 days and we're going to get her on a membership at some point, right? So what does that marketing strategy look like?
Yeah.
And then how long does that customer on average stay?
Mhm.
So if I know that that customer is going to stay for 6 months, now I can start calculating or on average, they're going to stay for 6 months. Now I can calculate on lifetime value. So for example, most customers, they come and get the 150 and then they're paying $75 a month for this facial. So obviously it's pretty easy math.
Yeah.
So now that I have a lifetime value, we can take that lifetime value and we can apply it back to whatever the marketing tactic strategy was. And then we can say, okay, we brought in 20 new members with a lifetime value of $500. So we know that this campaign could deliver X.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then we can compare that back to what we spent on the campaign. And all of a sudden we know what our ROI is. And that's great. But sometimes we're not making that conversion, right? So we got a couple more touches. We didn't convert the customer, and we didn't convert them. They didn't actually come in. But depending on the other marketing that we're doing and those touches, again, this comes back to the journey. I'm getting all these touches, and maybe they've only been touched 20 times, and maybe they just need 10 more touches to be to convert.
Yeah.
So then if you run the numbers from your campaign in 60 days and 90 days after the campaign ended,
Mhm.
and you go back and you look at your members, I bet you're going to see that more of them converted.
Yeah. You bring up a really good point. Like we talked about customer journey a few minutes ago, but customer journey is not just how do I get exposure for my brand so I can get somebody to make the door swing once. It's about when they walk in the restaurant, or they walk in the nail parlor, they walk in the health spa, like the gym, whatever it is. How do I get them to come back? So that's part of the journey as well. Like, okay, when we've had our initial contact, how do we get them to continue down this pathway toward our relationship nirvana, which is an ongoing relationship if you're a recurring service brand, right? Or an upsell to the best possible service that you could deliver if it's a one-time service, right? There's got to be a journey to get them to where your real desired state is at the end of the road. And then knowing the longitude of like how long does the customer stay with you, that's how you really do a good LTV or a lifetime value calculation. And then you can do true ROI valuations on your campaigns. Because if you're just measuring ROI in a 30-day window, your ROI calculations are always going to look bad, and you're never going to be able to justify the spend on the service. But I've got a brand that every 5 years they can retreat a home with a service, a roofing concept. And so their lifetime value is actually not the single service, although they got great ROI on the single service. They should be able to about 1 and 2, like 3, 1 and 4. They should be able to get another re-service on those roofs in 5 years. And so you've got to have a journey map that shows how to do that. But then it changes the LTV. That changes the whole math of your ROI. And now it makes more sense to spend, right? Not that we're trying just to get you to spend more money, but like you can intelligently spend knowing I'm going to make a lot more money back on that campaign than I would have thought. So Karen, you're awesome. This is like a perfect way to describe LTV and ROI, because most people think about it too myopically. And so they're terrified of their marketing calculations, but there's a lot more value in it than they think.
You said it very well, Dave, and it reminded me of, I had a septic crisis this week again. This
Oh,
is the fourth time in this house in the 17 years I've lived there.
what are your kids putting in the toilet, Karen? Like that, you should, I'm kidding. Go on. Septic crisis. This is a really crappy situation.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this franchisee, who I've become great friends with, the lifetime value on me, I mean, I'm priceless to them.
Yeah.
Plus, how many people have I recommended them to? How many shout outs have I given them on Facebook? Because they are, in my opinion, heroes, because there is no way I could do that work.
Mm, no. I mean, maybe. It's a lot of shoveling and pumping or whatever the problem was. That's not work you want to do either. No. Wow. So so what's the lifetime value of Karen to that franchise?
I'm
Well,
telling you, I'm priceless.
you are priceless because there's a multiplier effect too. So maybe we talk about that for a minute. And the part of the journey is once you get a customer in, then how do you convert that customer into an advocate, right? Into somebody who like is telling the world about you because you've done something incredible. Most brands do not think about that part of the customer journey. I know because we talk to brands all the time, like, oh, like what do you do with your clients once you sell them? Like, I don't know, we go on to the next one. Shiny object syndrome, Dave. Like, no, 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 no. Convert them into advocates. And then they're gonna, it's a multiplier effect, right?
100%. So like, for example, let's just use that facial example. So I come in and I get my $150 service and I totally love it. And they know that I love it. They can tell by, I'm walking out of there glowing. And they say, Karen, if you enjoy your service today, would you give us a review on Instagram?
Mhm.
Whether or not I signed that membership, if I walk out of there and I give them a review on Instagram, or if I give them a review on Instagram right now while I'm standing there, and they're going to give me 20% off my next service, oh, they already just got me back.
Mhm.
If I'm going to do it right now, they're getting something. They're getting the review they want right now. I'm getting what I want, 20% off my next service. I'm going to leave there. I'm going to tell 5 friends.
Mhm.
And I'm going to come back. And that's what I'm talking about. There has to be more than just a strategy too. Okay, let's get them to the door.
Mhm.
What's the strategy once we get them in the door? And that has nothing to do with what I do and what that customer experience is once they open the door. But that's when, it's the marketing in me that like gets me excited. I get goosebumps just even talking about it. Like, what does that look like?
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah. I mean, I run a CRM company. It's not really part of what I do either when they get in the door. And yet, but I care about it because if they're successful, then we're successful together, right? But it's about you mentioned this, but I'll just share a tip. Like if you're doing retail stuff, there should be a playbook for every visit, right? It's like, hey, the purpose of this visit is to give you an incredible experience. And when we're done, I'm gonna have a hook. So 20% off if you give me a review today. That should be your first visit, right? Second visit in, right? Come back in to that coupon expires in 30 days. Come on in sometime in the next 30 days, right? Put an expiration on that because you want them to take action soon. The longer the time goes, the more they're going to forget how they felt when they were with you, the less likely they are to come back. And then on that second visit, though, is when you should say, hey, either give us a review on another platform or tell your friends about us. Like here, we're going to give you a simple affiliate QR. Send it out to some friends, and if they scan it and come in, they get 20% off their service and you'll get 10% off for everybody who scans it. Like you can set some of this stuff up and then playbook step 3, when they come back in the third time, now we're going to talk about memberships. Hey, you can actually save 20% every month if, you've been in 3 months in a row. Why don't we do this? Like that's a customer journey map, right? But a lot of retail brands aren't thinking that way.
Absolutely. And what I love that you said about that is that you didn't ask me about the membership on day 1.
No, you don't need to. You can mention it. You should see the idea. Like, hey, by the way, if you love working with us, you come in a few months in a row, it probably makes sense to do this. Soft sell, agenda setting, but you're not pushing. And then you get them to want the membership, right? It's just a different approach. Some people are like hard close, move fast. Usually you have a lot of churn in those memberships, right? So yeah, let's shift. So we're talking a lot. We're spanning lots of different topics today, Karen. But one of the things that I think you know better than a lot of people that I know is spanning the gap between digital and physical. And you've kind of alluded to this a little bit, but can you talk to us a little bit about how are effective brands? How are some of your clients? How are people, really spanning the gap between digital and physical and making sure that that they're leveraging, direct mail pieces and other things, signage properly, whatever, and then also blending the value between that and digital?
Well, there's a few different ways you could do that, and brands are doing it extremely well. And I can tell you that from the franchisees that I work with, the more channels that they're in, they are getting better results than the franchisees that are in fewer channels. And it's this omni-channel approach. It's doing more than just one thing and expecting it to deliver results. There are programs that, such as like a connected mail program, that will allow you to take a mailing list of a specific demographic and then go out and look for people, and then take that mailing list, upload it, and then get matches back to social media accounts. So start serving them up ads in social media, Instagram, Facebook, before that direct mail piece ever hits the mail. The direct mail piece, then if they're, have an informed delivery with the USPS, they're going to get an email from the United States Post Office with the click-through ad. When they hit that website, they're going to pick up the cookie. Then finally, that direct mail piece arrives in homes after it's already pumped the prime for several days. And it has that QR code on it, what's going to direct them to that web page where they're picking up that cookie, following around the internet. Anybody that's picking up that cookie throughout the campaign is also getting followed around, right? So now we've had this one-time direct mail piece that has already hit customers, potential customers 7 to 10 times, and we know that they meet that criteria that we're looking for. Additionally, it's picking up everybody else that has hit the website in that same time. So, just taking something traditional and really, it's like direct mail on steroids, right? You're just amplifying what it can do. So my franchisees that are doing something like that, and then in conjunction with that, they belong to the moms groups and they're hitting the local events, they're getting so many more touches. So it's making all that marketing more effective. And then on the end of it, they're also picking up leads. So, that anybody that comes to the website, if we can match their physical address, we can then do a mailing to all those people that came to your website but didn't fill out a form. So we know that they've been there. We know that they've showed interest. We're able to match their physical address. So let's go ahead and send them a follow-up direct mail piece.
Can you talk about that for a minute? So that sounds a little bit like black magic to some people. How does that work? Like, how could somebody set up that system where, when if it's essentially, well, I'll let you explain it. So if somebody comes to my website at ClientTether.com and they're like, "Ooh, this is cool. I like these tools," but then they don't fill out a form, they go away. What magical technology is there that helps people to match an address to a visitor and then enable a direct mail piece to go out?
Right. So it matches back to the IP address. And you're not going to get everybody that lands on the web page, we're not going to be able to match back, right? But we can get a good majority, and we know that these are people that have shown interest. Now, I'm going to say we know that they've shown interest, but it could be your competitor. It could be somebody who's already a customer, right? That came to your website to look up, whatever. So you have to be careful, right? And these leads are very inexpensive, but you have to be careful. There's no magic bullet, right? So you purchase these leads, and then you have to then say, okay, I really need to suppress my existing customers because I don't want to do a mailing to them. And, I'm not going to know their names unless I have the names appended, because there's security that's involved. So if we want to have them appended, we have to go to another company to have the names appended. And then, do a mailing. So really, are you going to do this every week? No. You're going to kind of wait until these stack up. You're going to pull just the zip codes that you want to target, right? So you don't want to target somebody that's in California if your location is in Madison, Wisconsin. So I'm going to take my good zips in Madison, Wisconsin, and I'm going to target just those people. Then I'm going to suppress my existing customers. And I'm only going to do a mailing to these leads that came to my website that is going to be the most cost effective for my my marketing dollars. The postage is a huge part of every direct mail piece, for example. Does that answer your question?
Oh, 100%. I think And it sounds like this is something that you do and you have done quite a bit. So guys, I would just say if you're curious at all about something like this, just reach out to Karen. Like just hit her up on LinkedIn, email her. But I mean, there's a lot of information that you can leverage. This is something that I've been investigating a little bit. Like the big data on the back end of the web is a little bit creepy and Big Brotherish, but like it's there. It's a real thing. So you might as well leverage it and you can use it super intelligently and blend it with physical media. Because if I'm on a website, let's say I'm looking at Suttle-Straus, I'm a franchisor and I'm thinking, man, I need better brand management. And I hit their website, but I don't take any action. Then I get a flyer in the mail like 5 days later. That's an impactful experience, actually.
And you bring up a good point, Dave. It is a little scary, right? So there has to be a playbook for that too. How do you handle these leads that are really anonymous leads because they did not fill out a form?
Mhm.
They're not expecting to hear from you. You don't want to say, oh, I saw that, you were on my website. That is going to freak people out. You have to handle them very carefully. We can append phone numbers and you could call them, but that would be really creepy, right? You cannot text them.
No, you cannot. You do not have permission. There's zero
Absolutely
option.
cannot. So,
Yeah.
so like,
Wait,
why
pause.
would we get phone numbers?
Let's just say it one more time. If you use big data to get somebody's cell phone, you absolutely cannot text them at all, or else you're at risk of a $1,500 fine per segment you send out, right? Per text. So don't do it. Okay, carry on with your thought.
No, I mean they just have to be nurtured in a totally different type of way. You're not nurturing them the same way. I mean, we're salespeople, right? So we know what the funnel, we get it, right? Like we get but a lot of times franchisees don't, right? So these are different than leads that filled out a form on your website. They're very different and they need to be nurtured differently. Just like that person that comes through your door one time. Customer journey. Do you see customer journey? Everything's about the customer journey.
It comes back. It's like the circle of life here. We're back to customer journey, right? Hey, Karen, I know that we could probably talk for hours, but I want to make sure we have a little bit of time to talk about brand compliance, because like to a lot of people listening, our CMO friends, emerging and growing brands or established brands, they're like, this is terrifying. You're talking about giving my franchisees some sort of like power to make decisions about their own marketing. Like my brand compliance is going to go out the window. How do you first of all, maybe let's talk a little bit about what is brand compliance. Then can you share some insights about challenges doing so, and then how you've seen people effectively solve those? I would love to hear what you've got to share about that.
Well, brand compliance is huge, right? Like a lot of people buy buy a franchise because there are systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing is a system, in my opinion,
mm-hmm.
right? There are ways that franchisor wants the franchisee to market themselves. That's why we have all kinds of marketing playbooks and these types of guides for our franchisees. If we don't have those brand guidelines in place and we don't have the marketing standards in place, what are the franchisees doing? They're doing whatever that they can to drive business to their locations. Mm-hmm. So where I see the biggest challenges are with emerging franchisors that just haven't had a chance to get their arms around what the marketing side of it means. And their franchisees they know they need to do marketing, so they're doing whatever they can. But if we remember that one of the reasons that they did buy into it is because the marketing is there, and it actually is a selling point on the frandev side to say, hey, we've got a marketing playbook. This is what you do when you open. This is what you do. This is where you go. You can go in and customize and personalize for your local market, and then have that go into an automatic workflow. Mm-hmm. That's a selling tool. But within these different products that the franchisor would have, they only want the franchisees to be able to change certain aspects, right? They don't want them to be able to change the colors or put a starburst if there's not a starburst in there. So there are a number of different companies. Suttle-Straus is one that can provide a marketing platform that allows you to lock down the brand standards, but still gives the franchisees the ability to customize and personalize for their local market. Mm-hmm. But what happens the biggest challenge that I see with brand compliance is when we have emerging franchisors that have signed some franchisees that have kind of been doing their own thing, and then they are at a point where they want to get on a platform They want to have more control around it. So they're doing one of two things. Either they're hiring more graphic designers to work with the franchisees to make sure that it's brand compliant, or they're bringing on, like a brand portal, like what Suttle-Straus offers. And what that allows them to do is it allows them to scale without having to do all of the one-offs, and really get their arms around what that brand compliance is. And the franchisee knows for their own, peace of mind, that everything that is there is already approved and ready to go. There's no back and forth. There's no, is this okay, or can I do this?
Mhm.
So it really makes it a lot easier for everyone involved.
Yeah.
I guess I mean that's really the purpose of it. That's why we do what we do, and why I can get excited about it.
Yeah, well, it's funny because if you think about, like, some people, they say franchise operators, they think differently than franchisors, right? They're like, well, why does it matter if I, like, in my market, like, I'm in Tennessee, I like, we should use a bright orange, because people love orange. But if you're McDonald's and somebody changed the arches to orange, that would be weird, right? Like, you'd have a dissonant moment as a consumer. You'd be like, huh? Is that even a McDonald's? Just because the color of the arches were different, right? So as a franchisor is building their brand identity, right, in the marketplace, they're investing sometimes millions of dollars to make sure people recognize your logo. Like Marco's Pizza has a very, like, it always makes me think of a remote, like a video game controller, the M. But like, as soon as I see the M, I know exactly there's a Marco's Pizza. They're building one in my town, like 8 blocks away. I'm kind of excited about it. So, but like, I recognize the brand, right? But if a local franchise operator is changing the colors, changing the layout, putting it on a purple background, like doing things that don't jive with the brand, it's actually going to create dissonance, and it's going to undo a lot of the investment to create brand awareness for all these touches along the customer journey. They don't realize it, but they're unspooling effort and money they've spent in digital when they try to change it. So if you want to talk about why brand compliance is so important from my perspective, not being the marketeer, it's if you're not doing it, then your franchisees are sometimes unraveling their own marketing dollars, because they're actually creating dissonant moments for these consumers that aren't having the same experience. They're not recognizing the brand as part of that process.
Yes, and going into new markets, I mean, having that brand awareness so that that new franchisee, has some of that national awareness, it's really powerful in going into a new market. And when you're going into a new market and somebody says, "Oh, I saw that brand when I was on vacation,"
Yeah. Mhm.
and then now I'm aware of it because it looks the same, because it is the same. Everything about the experience is the same. The donut is the same, but the marketing is the same.
Mhm.
It's all compliant.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, think Chick-fil-A, right? I think they are the masters of this, where I can walk into a Chick-fil-A in North Carolina or in Salt Lake City, and I'm going to be greeted the same. They're going to ask me the same questions. They have the same menu. It looks clean. It smells clean. It's like they just operate in a very compliant way, so that the brand experience physically when I'm present, or when I'm driving down the road with the cows on the billboard, like, it's a very notable brand experience, right? So anyway, I love the way that they do it as an example of this, because their marketing, their ads, everything is consistent. So I feel like I can trust the brand when I'm in Tallahassee as much as I can when I'm in Chicago, right?
And that's what it comes down to. Brand awareness equals trust.
Yeah, brand trust. You're making a promise with your brand, right? With the way you communicate, the words you use, the claims you make. And the worst thing for a consumer, the thing that makes them never come back, is when you break that brand promise. So anyway, so let's talk Karen for a second. So if somebody was like interested, Karen, in reaching out, they need some advice, they want to talk to you, an emerging brand, an established brand, doesn't matter. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh, definitely on LinkedIn. I'm there all the time.
Yeah. I
And that's Karen, Karen Wenning, or WEN. I guess that's my email address. It's Karen Wenning.
Uh-huh. Awesome. Cool. So guys, reach out to Karen if you have any questions about brand compliance, about customer journey mapping, about digital and physical media, about building strategies for like EDDM or any sort of direct outreach, physical marketing. She's the queen, or sorceress, I think is the term we used before about that. But I sure appreciate you joining us on the podcast, Karen, and sharing so many insights.
This was really fun, Dave. I appreciate you so much, and I can't wait till we get to do our next philanthropy event together.
Looking forward to it. Thanks, Karen.